What happens when you hire an individual that has absolutely no experience doing VFX and CGI at a $200+ million movie production scale? Well, that would be Barry Jenkins and his prequel, sequel thing, live action-ish CGI, Mufasa, Lion King, you know the thing. Nobody's going to see this as of right now if you believe some of the early tracking numbers, or I should say at least nowhere near enough to justify what Disney is going to spend to complete this film and then market it into theaters. But shockingly, in a recent interview, Barry Jenkins says, and I quote, "All virtual filmmaking is not my thing." And it gets worse. This man is trying to distance himself from this movie's failure quickly. Renegade Online.
But yeah, speaking of, before we get too far off the topic of Mufasa, because we're going to talk about Snow White. Because I know you mentioned Y2K earlier. We'll go there. So here we go. Barry Jenkins, for those of you who don't know, is the director of Mufasa, who, as we stated before, you saw I had the thing up, the first iteration of this, and I'll just remind everybody, this is the measurement stick by which this new movie will be undoubtedly set against. And that was the live-action version of The Lion King that was put together by Jon Favreau.
Right.
And as Culture and I discussed earlier when we were comparing this to, say, Inside Out 2, this is very different. This is $1.6 billion worth of pre-COVID box office, which in today's ticket prices would be comfortably north of $2 billion. So it is much bigger than even Inside Out 2. Probably about I'd say 2.3, 2.4. We're talking somewhere between Infinity War and, just in terms of raw dollars, of course. Infinity War came out the same year. Endgame did. We'd adjust that up in the same fashion. But the point is that we're talking about a much bigger raw dollar kind of situation if we do proper inflation adjustments. So in that regard, when we look at what is the potential here for the follow-up coming from Barry Jenkins on Mufasa, due out the Friday before Christmas, going head-to-head with Sonic 3, that as of right now, as we mentioned before, is scheduled to, according to forecasts 2 weeks out, is scheduled to be beat. So they got Sonic 3 coming in with 65 to 85 million currently, and Mufasa currently projected 55 to 75 million. And maybe the story gives us a bit of an insight as to what the problem may be. Barry Jenkins says, all virtual filmmaking is not my thing, after directing the all virtual $250 million Disney production of whatever the hell this is. Fun.
This is like being gifted $1 million restaurant business that you wanted to run and then saying, restaurants, they're not really my gig. I'm not even into food, really.
Yeah. Or somebody that's used to managing a McDonald's, and then he wins Hell's Kitchen, and Gordon Ramsay puts him in charge of a new restaurant at the Paris Hotel in Las Vegas, right? It's going to be a disaster. Disney sent him a note worrying that one long take was too slow. Again, we love it when Disney executives like Iger and Bergman get involved in the nuance of the filmmaking, because as bad as the people they tend to hire to make the films, honestly, the Disney executives are even freaking worse. So I hope this is a disaster, as it looks like it will be. Disney's Mufasa, says the article from Variety magazine, is one of the last remaining Hollywood tentpoles of the year. And it might be director Barry Jenkins' first and last time making an all-digital movie. What they don't tell you is it's because it's going to flop, which is probably why he'll be the last time he'll be doing one like this.
These are really, really, really expensive, too, by the way. These photorealistic CGIs.
Super expensive.
Okay, so we know the budget for this film is well over $200 million. Well over.
Yeah, and, easily.
And just like Moana, they're going to dump $100 million into the ads and print.
More.
So, well,
yeah. It'll be 125, 150.
Yeah, but
it's going to basically need $800 million to break even.
And I'm being conservative.
Close.
But then you have like outlets. This is why I don't like the mainstream media. If outlets like Screen Rant or Screen Crush, whichever one it was, saying that, it only needs to make back this much money to break even. And it's like what the budget is. And you're going,
those articles are written
high?
because the articles are written by artificial intelligence half the times on those websites.
All right. Because
which is still ironically actually smarter than any human being writers they may still have there. So anyway, going back to this, Jenkins is the Oscar winner behind acclaimed dramas such as Moonlight and If Beale Street Could Talk. Fine films. This is a totally different type of film. And he said in an interview with Vulture that he knows what everyone is thinking. On what planet do I, Mr. Moonlight, make a prequel to The Lion King? This, of course, is a question somebody at Disney should have asked before hiring this guy. He says, I can't tweet about the Super Bowl without somebody reminding me that I'm making this effing film, he added. He sounds so enthusiastic when he refers to his $250 million project coming up in 2 weeks as this fucking film. This is Barry Jenkins referring to Mufasa. I can't.
You would think he's supposed to be making hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars for a giant company with this. And he acts like he's petulant that it's been handed to him.
Yeah, exactly. I can't tweet about the Super Bowl without somebody reminding me that I am making this film talking about Mufasa. He said, I can't. When I took this job, the idea was, what does Barry Jenkins know about visual effects? Why the hell would he do this movie? I think part of that I found very invigorating. People make these things, with computers, so anybody should be able to do this. Anybody, right? There's nothing physically that says I'm incapable of doing this. All of this is invigorating the confidence of the Disney shareholders right now, for sure.
Do you remember the lady who made Captain Marvel?
Yeah, I was just about to say, it's exactly like Mia DaCosta.
Yeah.
Right? Wasn't that her name?
DaCosta 2.0.
Yeah, remember, exactly.
I'm going back to these other Marvel directors because I don't know who these characters are, and I don't want to spend the time to learn about them. Yeah, that's going to go well.
Yeah. Yeah, and Pro, I see you're thinking of the private chat. I actually have that queued up already as well. Yep. Thank you. So yeah, we'll get there just a bit. So, look, this is the kind of thing, and I know they're getting better at this. And let me say this real quick. Let me pull this down. The analysts, the Wall Street people that call into these earnings calls, Q&A sessions for Disney and everybody else, but especially Disney in this case, they are getting a little bit more cognizant, at least the trends have been. They have become more cognizant of the studio side of operation. And it was only because of the number of failures the Walt Disney Company had back to back for 2 years. Okay? And, thanks to channels, those of us, all three of us sitting on this panel that have had this discussion on our own respective channels, and the word getting out there about it, which has pushed for this. So anyway, the point is that what we're reading here, talking about this is the kind of thing that these analysts on these calls that have become more cognizant of for a number of reasons, because of the great people in this audience, the Renegade Nation, because of all of us doing what we do on our own channels, publications on things like that, parkplace.com, which you guys need to check out every day. We're going to have an article from that in just a minute talking about Snow White. But they become more cognizant. They need to get involved early on now. So now I need the Wall Street analysts to move from reactive things like, oh, didn't do that. They're all happy. Disney's back. It looks like everything's back on track. Bob Iger's telling us everything's back on track. We had Deadpool and Wolverine. We had Inside Out 2. I can't wait for this next earnings call in February to have to explain, I'm sorry, my face is still in the toilet. We thought we had taken it out. I had gotten the blue chemical off my face. But the point is that these analysts have got to get in early on now. They cannot wait. So when they see stuff like this, the analysts should be, hey, why are we hiring guys like this to do these movies? Maybe this is part of the problem of inconsistency. They're not aware of it yet. Right now, they're still looking at Moana in the box office going, yay, not realizing that it should be doing better than it is. And this is the issue. And they have to start asking questions. Why is it not? Why did it have that kind of fall off?
Right. Why is it looking like The Last Jedi?
Yeah. They're going to find out real quick when Mufasa comes out how bad things can get. And then with Captain Falcon and that $400 million turd, and Snow White, which, thank you, Caroline Reed again, is now agreeing with my numbers. That's going to be a $400+ million turd. Get to that story in just a bit. But this is the thing. They need to start asking these questions up front. You got a guy here, Barry Jenkins, the director of the freaking movie, referring to it as that effing film. He's annoyed by it. He's admitting that he has no idea what he's doing. Doesn't even know why he was hired to do this, from what it can seem like. Except we all know why he was hired to do this. We talk about it all the time. By the way, reminder, everybody, Kershaw will be here Wednesday to have that discussion in more depth. Hire people that just aren't qualified to do the job because they fit a checkbox on a ESG sheet for BlackRock. It's not my thing, Jenkins says of all digital filmmaking. It's not my thing. Spending 147 days shooting Mufasa, but there was never any physical set. He doesn't sound too keen on repeating this kind of filmmaking, at least not anytime soon. You know why? Because nobody else out there is going to pay him the kind of money that Disney did to do this crap.
I don't
and
know
it's
what
the
that
only
means.
reason he did it.
I have no idea what it means to spend 147 days shooting an animated film. I don't. That's like
you're in a green room. You're in a green room with actors in bodysuits. It's motion capture.
But these are animals.
Well, you got people playing the animals just like you did Andy Serkis playing Gollum.
Okay. I thought this was done like Toy Story. Like I had no idea they were.
Some of the stuff probably was motion capture.
That would make more sense because the verbiage to me, like you would never say, oh, we spent, 180 days shooting Moana 2. Like that wouldn't make any sense. So.
Well, you have a point. I mean, I'm assuming that they did some degree of motion capture for this. I'm taking him as his word.
Can you imagine how demeaning it would be to have to come into a green room for 3 days so Seth Rogen can fart as a warthog on a green box?
Wouldn't surprise me.
Oh, what a wonderful way to spend your life. Your short, mortal life. Sitting there with a camera pointed at Seth Rogen, passing gas as a warthog.
This guy, Barry Jenkins, obviously, this is not a project or a job that he particularly cared about, wanted, or had any interest in. Because he says, in his own words, basically, he didn't know what the hell he was doing. If you're the director, you should know exactly what you're walking into. You should be an expert at that. He wasn't.
Well, let me present
but wait a minute. He was glad to take the check, and that's the best. I think that's the only reason that Barry Jenkins agreed to this. Because, hey, Disney's going to stroke me a check for $10 million to do this? Where's he going to make that money anywhere else? Nowhere.
Right. Well, imagine that you are about to bestow upon the world something that they expect to be a Van Gogh, and you know that you struggled to make macaroni art, and you know that in 2 weeks, everyone's going to know that. Right. That's why you would start saying this. That's when you start saying psychologically, well, I don't even know why I took the job. This is not really my thing, because you know you're about to put some janky macaroni art that nobody wants to put on their fridge.
Oh, yeah. You're about to drop the suck.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.